Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this old video, we're going back all the way to the Sunshine State. So you know that means things are going to get wacky and weird. They do. This is my first story to have ninjas, I think. I mean, I feel like if I had ninjas in a story before, I'd remember. Yeah, you heard me right, ninjas. Right, whoa dude, ninjas are pretty sweet. Unfortunately, not necessarily the ones in this story though, so sorry. Let's give it a go. It is to Escambia County that we are going. A place you might remember from the story of Donald Hartung, the story of Ashley MacArthur, or maybe as a place that actually exists on Earth. The stuff that happens there, though, definitely makes me think it exists on another planet. The year of our tale be 2009. Incredible. And the small suburb of Beulah. Our story takes us to the northwest of downtown Pensacola. It was a very hot July day that our story begins, with a home invasion by the ninjas I mentioned at the top. But before we get there, let's go somewhere else. Bird and Melanie Billings were the folk who lived on Silcox Lane, beautiful Beulah, right near the Florida-Alabama border. Bird, Bud he went by, and Melanie had been married for 16 years in 2009. Bud was 66, Melanie 43. Both Bud and Melanie had children from previous relationships, 2 each, and this was Bud's third marriage, Melanie's second. Melanie had 2 kids before she was 20, the second child, Nikki, being born with numerous health issues including spinal meningitis, cerebral palsy, and epilepsy. A young mother working 2 jobs and soon to be single as the dad was out of the picture. Life wasn't always easy. She worked in cafes and later car dealerships, and it was in 1990 that Melanie met Bud at one. See, Bud was a big deal. Bud, he was a name in car dealerships in the Pensacola area. They would marry 3 years later. And so, they had 2 kids each, makes 4, plus 13. See, Bud and Melanie were absolutely beloved in the community, namely for their loving nature and generosity. They would adopt 13 children together, many of whom had myriad special needs. The Billings had a big old house, big enough for everybody, pool, toys, 9 bedrooms, and a high-tech security system to keep everyone safe. The children were their lives. There was nothing they would not do for them. They were altruistic, true and true. They were successful, not just as loving parents to many, many children, and they were known as generous neighbors. Bud would give you the shirt off his back. But they were also known in the local businesses around Pensacola. In business, Bud's altruism ran out, but that's business. He owned and operated a number of companies, a used car lot, finance company, and was a part owner of a strip club. Nice. They were very private people. They really didn't want anyone intruding on their children's lives. Some of the children with special needs had sadly passed away, and they wanted their children's lives to be perfect. By and large, they were doing okay. That is until July 9th, 2009. Just after 7 p.m. on that day, a neighbor of the Billings, a woman by the name of April Spencer, she called 911.
The mom and dad, I live next door, and the daughter came over and said the mother and father have been shot and they're dead.
And she said they've been shot?
Yes. They're in the bedroom, ma'am. They're dead. Let's go get the kids. There's kids in the house.
Bird and Melanie had been murdered, shot dead inside their bedroom. 9 of their children had been in the house at the time, and that shit scares you for life. The intruders, dressed like ninjas, had emerged from a red van and broke into the house. This was incredibly shocking to the local community, right? That some people would brutally murder this successful, loving, generous couple who would do anything for anybody and had dedicated their lives to helping children with needs. And the fact that when they were murdered, there was 9 kids in the house is rough. The rumor mill about who these people could possibly be sprang up It sprang up immediately. Ooh, maybe Bud, he was involved in something shady. Maybe he was in this, maybe he was in that, maybe he was in the other, right? The usual. One thing that came up quick enough was that someone had walked onto the Billings property a few days prior, uninvited. And as I said, Bud and Melanie were extremely private. You know, we can't go on their land, right? They wanted to protect their kids as much as possible. This guy started peering in the windows, right? Having a go at the place. Bud chased him out of the place, told him to, make like a tree and leave. This guy, his reason for looking in the windows was that he operated a pressure washing business, and I'll wash your house for you. Bud said take a hike. So that was interesting, and then the 9th of July happened. The children were unharmed, thankfully. They were found hiding under beds, in closets, and also, thanks to the Billings surveillance footage, it was apparent that 5 people had broken in, 3 in the front, 2 in the back, arriving from a red van in front and a gold Explorer in the back, which witnesses reported. They rushed in, shot Bud in the back of both legs, then dragged him and Melanie to the master bedroom, where there was no camera, and then they took off. They were in and out of the house within 5 minutes. This was surgical. Bud and Melanie that evening had been watching TV when they were dragged kicking and screaming into the bedroom and shot multiple times with a handgun. They were executed. So, why? A safe. A safe was taken from the home along with a black briefcase. However, all the people who broke in were unidentifiable. They all had full masks on, and they didn't leave behind much evidence other than shell casings that were used. So the investigation was on.
The Florida parents of 17 children who were shot dead in their home. The parents were shot dead, we should say. CBS News correspondent Don Teague is in Pensacola with more on the murder investigation. Don, good morning to you.
Good morning, Jeff. The attorney representing the Billings family tells us all of the children are being cared for by relatives today, and there are no plans to separate them. Meanwhile, investigators continue their search for answers.
It was led by this guy, Sheriff David Morgan, who you may remember from the Donald Hartung story.
Odd at best. It was a ritualistic killing. Witchcraft. I'll say that right now.
Can't wait to hear what he thinks of this one.
I think you've used the word in the last week, humdinger.
Is there a humdinger that you simply can't tell us?
Yes, that is a true statement.
So this is a robbery, a home invasion, but it's also something much more.
Much, much more, yes, sir.
Is this you wouldn't believe what's really gone on here?
That's true. If I had determined to write a book, I'd write about this. If I was a scriptwriter, I'd write about this.
Right. The children, many of whom had special needs, they were so distressed by what happened, they couldn't really talk about anything. All they could say was that 2 bad men had broken in wearing masks and they said, "You were gonna die, 1, 2, 3. The first lead they put out essentially was an image of the van. The red, sort of nondescript van that the suspects had used as an arrival and getaway vehicle. There was also a gold Explorer, but it was witnesses who saw that, not on camera. In the meantime, the police went to speak with those closest to Bud and Melanie, speaking with their son, Justin Billings.
I didn't know anything about the safes until someone kept asking me what was in the contents of the safe.
Do you know that?
I knew there was paperwork, jewelry, and prescriptions of my sister who died in August. That's all I know that was in there.
They hadn't got rid of them yet?
It's sentimental. My mom wouldn't have gotten rid of it. My mom has everything of my sister Nikki's.
That's pretty tough on the family.
It was the third one that we had to put that we had to bury, so it was especially, and it was my mom's biological daughter, so it was even harder.
If I'm here trying to work with you and we're trying to take care of, see who killed your mother and father.
Yes, sir.
Right, or executed them.
Yes, sir. My whole family could be a target.
Think about everything you can think about, because if it's something that you're scared to tell us, or if you're scared of somebody, let us help you. But if you can remember anything or if you know anything, we need to know so we can work it, okay?
Yes, sir.
He was kind of weird, but he didn't seem to have much information. So the objective was a burglary, right? Safe and a briefcase, and it was known that Bud carried. He worked in, cash businesses. He carried a shitload of kabosh in that briefcase. So what first looked like, could have been a random attack. Now they thought maybe they knew the killers. Perhaps not well, but someone with inside information about the Billings financial situation. So Bud's business associates, and he had many, were first on the list. People who owed him money, maybe. And as I said, Bud was involved in a lot of different businesses in Pensacola, so the list wasn't short. But before they could delve too deeply into that, someone contacted the police saying they knew where that red van was. They were looking at it. It was in a trailer park, parked in the driveway of a trailer owned by one Leonard Gonzalez. He was an L fella who owned a pressure washing business. He was in ill health and a bit of a drunk, so him pulling off what seemed like genuinely a high-tech operation, no. And he told the police the vehicle was being repaired. It hadn't been driven in a long time. It wasn't even his van, it was his son's. So maybe it wasn't the right van. Well, that was until somebody else called in the police, saying they also had seen the van. And this time they had footage of the driver. Let's have a cue. It was Leonard. The van hadn't been driven in weeks, me bollocks. The police were a lot more keen to speak to him now, and he told a story.
And then you said you were still in the van. What did you do next?
I would say I'm not plumb dumb, but shit, I was there, so I must be. Get down in the yard, doors open, everything's going fine, and all of a sudden, ow.
What'd you think when you heard that pow, 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 pow?
I like to shit on myself. I thought, oh dear God, no. And I'm hoping they're just shooting in the ceiling or some kind of shit. Trying to scare the hell out of somebody. For the record, is there any chance of me going home tonight?
No, sir. I'm sorry. I can't let you go.
Leonard was the getaway driver, he said, but he didn't go in, and he started naming names, one of which was very familiar. Patrick Gonzalez, his son, he said, was the ringleader along with his friend, Wayne Coldiron. He also told the police that his son had been in the house previously, the Billings house. He'd worked in construction and had been doing some remodeling for the Billings family. So he scoped it out and knew there was a safe. The police then went to Patrick Gonzalez and Wayne and brought them in. And if you think they were as cooperative as Leonard, you must be joking.
Well, we appreciate you coming here today.
Whatever I can do, I don't, believe me, when I saw the pictures on the TV, I was like, damn, and I know the guy, so I'm thinking.
You know what guy?
The guy that this is about that thing in Beulah, right? That's what my mom told me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I was like, shit.
You saw the picture of the van on TV?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your van.
Excuse me?
That picture is the same van that's in your yard, right?
It's similar. Very similar to that van, but no, it's not. It can't be the same van. It's not the same van.
Okay. Why is that?
Because it can't be the same van. What do you mean? Oh, okay, I understand what you're saying.
Why can't it?
Because that van it's been over there. It couldn't have.
It's been at your dad's place?
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as I'm not guilty, I'm fine, so I'm easy, whatever.
You ever been to his house?
No. Never been.
Never been out to his house?
No, sir.
Thursday, which would be the 9th of last week. You know when this happened? Seen the papers?
Yeah.
Happened Thursday.
Okay.
Thursday, what were you doing? So you got to your dad's around 6.
Yeah, when you talk to him, you'll understand. He's got some serious issues. So don't take anything he says to, oh my God, this guy's a suspect, because he's just, the guy's got brain damage. You know that. I don't know if y'all know that. You will know that he's got brain damage. And
you're a suspect in this right now. That's what we're sitting here trying to tell you from the get-go. We're trying to.
I didn't know that.
Like, why do you think you're here?
Why do you think I was asking you where you were at?
I thought you were asking everybody that has a
Everybody's a suspect right now. Everybody's a suspect.
Oh, okay, well, that's fine.
They wouldn't give shit, and at this point they didn't have enough to arrest them. Patrick and Wayne denied everything, and it was reportedly a drunk dad's word against his son. And Leonard talked because, well, they were beginning to reach some kind of deal, so it was slow going at this point. The next thing they did then was they undertook a search warrant of Leonard's trailer. What they found that interested them was an empty shoebox. The shoebox was brand new. And it had been bought. It was for black boots and it had been bought from a Walmart. And it looked like the boots may be worn in the surveillance footage. They then went to the Walmart where they believed they'd been purchased and, well, they had a look and saw what they saw. Leonard, Patrick, 2 other men, a gold Explorer, and a red van. This was the morning before the shootings. But they still only knew who 3 of them were. At this point, they were confident they were the suspects. But there was 5 people involved at least. 5 people broke into the house. So full sure Patrick and Wayne were there. Leonard was a driver, so he never went in. So who were the 3 other lads? And who were these unidentified guys? Well, then a miracle occurred when 2 guys turned themselves in. Rakeem Florence and Frederick Thornton. Rakeem was a juvenile, Frederick 19 years old. They told the police they had been there, in the house, and it had been the briefcase and safe that motivated the crime. With Patrick telling Rakeem and Frederick there were millions there. They identified Patrick again as the ringleader. See, they both had been working at an auto shop that was run by Patrick's friend, and that's how they were recruited into this plot. Patrick planned everything to a T. He had been in the National Guard, right? So he would drill them, going in like SWAT teams or something for a month before the events. They would do drills. That's how they got to be so quick. That's how they were in and out within 5 minutes. They knew exactly what they were doing. And Patrick was the one who executed Bird and Melanie. After the murders, Patrick had threatened them that if they go to the police, well, you know. This then led to 2 other men. Donnie Stallworth, who had gone into the house. He was the 5th man who had gone in, along with Patrick, Wayne, Frederick, and Rakeem. And another guy, Gary Sumner, who was the other getaway driver, along with Leonard. Then, after the killings, the 6 men went to meet a woman who was also involved named Pamela Long Wiggins, a realtor and a very wealthy businesswoman. She owned the red van, and she was where the safe had gone. They had dropped it off at her place, along with the weapons used. She had some ties to the Mexican cartels, oddly enough. But she was a very wealthy woman. She was even arrested in Alabama on her yacht. Why she took part in this? There was nothing of any real value in the safe, by the way. You know, they thought there was millions of dollars in there. There was nothing. Would have loved to have seen their face when they cracked it.
As a result of the intense speculation regarding the motive of the crime, I have been authorized to tell you that the safe that was removed from the Billings home contained only children's prescription medication, important family documents, and some jewelry of sentimental value. Hopefully, this will put to rest the intense speculation and rumors that are swirling about the Billings family.
There obviously are loose ends to tie up.
7 men and a woman have been arrested in connection with the murders, though authorities say more arrests could follow. Investigators have also recovered a safe stolen from the Billings home and a number of guns, including the murder weapon.
This was a home invasion robbery. We think it's as simple as that.
So this is a robbery, a home invasion, but it's also something much more.
Much more, yes, sir.
Is this you wouldn't believe what's really gone on here?
Witchcraft. I'll say that right now.
So, it seems kind of wrapped up by then, right? They had the motive, they had the 5 people who went into the house, they had the 2 getaway drivers, and then they had the Pamela who was an accessory, the supplier, let's say. But this story, even though you can kind of wrap it up in a little bow somehow, it still seems off. Somehow. Well, there could be a lot more to this case than what it seems like, which is a robbery and execution. Horrific. But that's almost too straightforward. Patrick denied any involvement, but he did say he was involved with something very deep and had been used before by Pensacola car dealers to, quote, whack folks. The Pensacola car dealership scene? Sharks. Every one of them.
The Mexican mafia, stolen cars, and money owed, all allegedly connected to a man accused of stealing thousands of dollars from Bird Billings. Last night, this man, Cab Tice, was arrested on a theft charge. He has not been tied to the couple's murder.
Henry Cabell Tice used to be Bird Billings' right-hand man.
He's a former business associate and family friend of the Billings.
He was a partner in the used car business, and now he's a person of interest in the Billings murder case.
Of course, what we're doing is we're going through any family member, associate, business associate that Mr. Billings may have had. Again, we're looking at anyone through those associations that may or may not have had anything to do with the murder.
Apparently, some didn't like Bud Billings, and Patrick said one in particular, a Henry Cab Tice, had been approaching him about whacking the Billings, but Patrick refused. Of course he refused, he was pleading not guilty, right? He didn't do it. Henry Cab Tice, another used car dealer, owed Bud over $150,000, and he was named a person of interest in the murders at one point.
And we're here today with Henry, is it Tice?
Henry C. Tice.
Henry C. Tice here at the Sheriff's Office. Not looking good for you, buddy. You know, unfortunately, there's this circle that's involved in all this. And you know every one of them. You know?
I know Patrick and Bud, and I know everybody.
Everybody involved in this. So, what would be your theory of what happened?
It's hard for me to think that anybody, no matter what their financial circumstances, could do anything that horrible. When everything happened, here's what I knew happened. Bud Billings' favorite statement was this, and as you interview people, they'll all confirm this. He'll say, you know what, over these years, I had so much cash that I could not spend it before I died. That was his favorite saying.
He allegedly borrowed a lot of money from Mexican cartels and was writing bad checks to Bud's financial company. Bud's financial company financed the purchases of Tice's customers, and Bud believed he had discovered that a few cars had disappeared from Tice's lot, and he suspected they were ending up in Mexico. Henry also had a close relationship with Patrick, and his name came up more than once in interviews.
I realized that the only reason why I thought I was a target is because I knew there was a guy named Cab that double-crossed my dad with car business or something. And I know him and my dad got into a big argument, and I was there when it happened.
So your dad's having a problem with?
Yeah.
Is there any kind of lawsuit against this man?
I think my dad was trying to sue him for theft or something. The only person that would have a grudge against my dad would have been him that I know of.
Cab introduced y'all.
I don't want to put myself in jeopardy, so we'll just say that he had business partners that were rather unscrupulous. He was known for it, on the street at least, I'd heard.
So theories came out. I mean, theories, obviously, first one, murder for hire, right? Another one being there was something in the safe, but it wasn't money, it was documents. Or another one was that the burglars got the wrong safe. There was a second safe that actually had shit in it, but they missed it. The police have always remained tight-lipped about the whole thing. You know, publicly, it was a burglary, execution, and all key players were arrested. Even though we still don't really know too much about even the key players, especially Pamela. That's the one I'm most curious about. We'll never know with her. Now, Henry had never been charged or tied to the murders, but it was something that just came up a few times. And he was charged with grand theft after writing bad checks. Henry Cab Tice always denied any involvement, and he's never been proven to have any. But it was well known him and Bud didn't get on well. And it turned out the reports were right. There really was a second safe in the Billings home that did contain hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they missed it. So maybe there wasn't really any big twist in this. The 8 people involved in the plot were just plain gobshites. Patrick Gonzalez, Wayne Coldiron, and Donnie Stallworth were all charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Leonard Gonzalez, Frederick Thornton, Gary Sumner, and Rakeem Florence were all charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder. Pamela Long Wiggins was charged with a first-degree felony of accessory after the fact to first-degree murder. Patrick got the death penalty.
As to the charge in count 1, Bird Billings, we the jury find the defendant, Leonard Patrick Gonzalez Jr., guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment.
Gonzalez Jr. was convicted on all counts and eventually sentenced to death. More guilty verdicts would follow, as did more guilty pleas.
Donnie, Wayne, they got 2 life sentences each. Frederick, Rakeem, Gary and Leonard all got plea agreements and 40+ year sentences. Pamela Long Wiggins got 28 and 12 year sentences. Leonard died in prison in 2015. Pamela also died in prison the following month. The sheriff got his hero moment, so good for him. Wonder who he wants to play him.
I asked you if there was anything that I could do for you, and your response back to me was, Sheriff, find the people who did this. It is my honor today to tell you, Ashley, and your family, we have found them.
And so ends this old one. Pretty straightforward. On the surface, this is what happened. They were all tracked down and arrested. End of story. But then there's some reporting, and it's like, man, under the surface, yeah, like a transformer, there could be more than meets the eye. In the end, though, the Billings were loved and adored. They seemed like great people who left behind 17 children who they would have moved mountains for. And when you end it, it's like the why, who cares? It's what was taken that matters. By a bunch of goons, I think is the only way to describe them. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to do so. Being here with this guy. Here, go on. I'll see you as always real soon in the next old video. Until then, please take care of yourselves. Okay.